First form, human Dio Brando, before the vampire, before the stand, before reality itself bent to his will. Dio Brando began as something far more dangerous than any supernatural monster, a brilliant, charismatic human being entirely devoid of conscience. Born in the slums of Victorian England around 1867 to an abusive alcoholic named Dio Brando, young Dio learned early that survival meant manipulation, that power was the only truth, and that morality was a cage for the weak. When his father's deathbed scheme placed him inside the Joestar mansion as an adopted son, Dio saw his chance, not for family, not for redemption, for total domination. Standing roughly 185 centimeters with blonde hair and piercing green eyes, Dio arrived at the Joestar estate with a singular mission: destroy Jonathan Joestar from within and claim the family fortune as his own. He didn't use fists, he used psychology. He burned Jonathan's beloved dog Danny alive in an incinerator, shattering the boy's innocence. He forced himself on Jonathan's love, Irina Pendleton, stealing a kiss in public to humiliate both of them and destroy their relationship. For 7 years, Dio played the role of perfect adopted brother while secretly, methodically poisoning George Joestar Sr. with a slow-acting toxin, framing circumstances to make Jonathan look like the unstable one. But Jonathan refused to break. His spirit, his honor, his ridiculous, infuriating goodness, it endured. And when Jonathan discovered the poisoning plot, Dio's carefully constructed scheme collapsed in a single night. This human form, powerless without manipulation, faced total defeat. In desperation, Dio made the choice that would define a century of horror. He rejected his humanity entirely. Second form, early vampire Dio, the Stone Mask. An ancient Aztec artifact capable of piercing the human brain and transforming flesh into something beyond mortal limits. When Jonathan cornered him, Dio pressed the mask to his own face and activated it with his blood. The transformation was immediate and grotesque. Dio's carefully styled hair became wild and unkempt. His eyes sharpened, darkened, became predatory. Fangs erupted from his jaw. His body surged with strength capable of crushing stone, speed that blurred human perception, and regeneration that sealed wounds in seconds. He could drain blood through his hands by penetrating victims' bodies. He developed the Space Ripper Stingy Eyes, a technique that fired pressurized fluid beams from his pupils capable of slicing through flesh and bone. But more than physical power, vampirism granted Dio the ability to create thralls. Corpses touched by his vampiric essence reanimated as zombies, mindless servants bound to his will. He raised armies of the undead, turned living humans into shambling horrors, and believed himself utterly invincible. That arrogance nearly ended him. During the final confrontation at the Joestar mansion, Jonathan, wielding the Ripple technique, a martial art that channels sunlight energy through the body, managed to impale Dio on a stone statue. Fire consumed the mansion. Dio's body burned. Any other creature would have died. Dio severed his own head to survive. Third form, the severed head. Picture it. A conscious, living head separated from its body, preserved in a glass container by the loyal zombie servant Wang Chan. No limbs, no torso, just a head, fangs, and an unbreakable will to survive. This should have been the end. This should have been a pathetic, helpless state. But Dio, even as a mere head, retained his vampiric abilities. He could still fire Space Ripper Stingy Eyes from his pupils. He could still command his zombie servants through supernatural connection. And most critically, he could extend tendrils from his severed neck stump to graft himself onto another body. Wang Chan retrieved Jonathan Joestar's corpse after the final battle. On a ship bound for America, Dio prepared to steal his greatest enemy's body, to wear Jonathan like a suit and mock his memory for eternity. But the ship exploded, the vessel sank, and Dio, trapped in a coffin with Jonathan's corpse, plunged to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. For 100 years, Dio Brando remained conscious in the dark, grafted to his enemy's body, waiting for rescue that might never come. Most minds would have shattered. Dio's only grew sharper. Fourth form, Dio, the weakened hybrid. Treasure hunters discover a mysterious coffin on the ocean floor. Inside, a blond man with a star-shaped birthmark, emaciated and starving, his head grafted onto a body that isn't his. Dio awakens in a world transformed. Automobiles, airplanes, television. A century has passed and he knows nothing of it. Weakened, confused, and vulnerable, Dio is rescued by Enya the Hag, a stand user who educates him about the modern world and, more importantly, about stands, manifestations of fighting spirit that grant supernatural abilities. This version of Dio, now stylized in all capitals, wears Jonathan Joestar's muscular body like stolen clothing. The body resists. Jonathan sells his spiritual essence, his connection to his descendants, all of it fights against Dio's consciousness. A scar around Dio's neck marks where the graft occurred. His left side heals slower than his right. The body is powerful but not fully synchronized, limiting his vampiric regeneration and overall strength. Then Dio is pierced by a stand arrow, a mystical artifact that awakens latent stand abilities in those with sufficient spiritual strength. The arrow activates not one but two stands in the hybrid body. First, a hermit purple-like stand growing from Jonathan's half, granting limited precognition through spirit photography. Second, Dio's own stand born from his soul. He names it the World. Fifth form, Dio, Master of the World. The World manifests as a golden humanoid figure of immense power, but it's true. Ability remains hidden even from Dio at first. Through combat and experimentation, he discovers the truth. The World can stop time. For everyone except Dio and his stand, time freezes completely. Opponents are locked in place, their attacks suspended mid-motion, their thoughts halted. In this frozen world, Dio moves freely. He can strike frozen enemies who cannot defend themselves. He can reposition objects. He can throw knives that hang motionless in the air until time resumes, then all fly simultaneously toward their targets. Initially, Dio can stop time for only 1 or 2 seconds, but the ability grows with practice. 5 seconds, then 9 seconds after he absorbs Joseph Joestar's blood. Dio believes that with enough training he could stop time indefinitely, an hour, a day, forever. He would become a god existing outside causality itself. But the world's power comes with a critical weakness: the body. Jonathan's corpse still resists. Dio must drink Joestar blood to strengthen the synchronization. He creates flesh buds, small organic growths from his cells that burrow into victims' brains and control them like puppets. He uses these to enslave stand users, including Noriaki Kakyoin, sending them to hunt the Joestar bloodline. Because the stand arrow that awakened the world also triggered a chain reaction through Jonathan's body, causing every living Joestar descendant, Joseph, Jotaro, Holy, Jazik, to awaken their own stands simultaneously. Some are empowered, others like Holy Kujo are dying from a stand their body cannot support. Dio assembles an army of stand users and waits in Cairo for the Joestar group to come to him. He knows they must. Holy's life depends on killing him. Sixth form, Dio enhanced post-Joseph's blood. During the final battle in Cairo, Dio manages to drain Joseph Joestar's blood while Joseph lies unconscious. The infusion is transformative. The scar around Dio's neck heals significantly. Synchronization with Jonathan's body increases dramatically. Dio's hair becomes wilder, more erratic. His expression shifts from calculated menace to unhinged madness. Power surges through him. His time stop duration extends toward 9 seconds and climbing. But there's an unexpected complication. Joseph's blood contains residual Heyman energy. This interferes with Dio's vaporization freezing technique, one of his signature vampire abilities. The enhancement is a double-edged sword. More stand power, less vampire technique control. At this peak, Dio faces Jotaro Kujo's Star Platinum. The two stands are identical in power, speed, and precision. But Jotaro has something Dio lost a century ago: the ability to grow, to adapt, to learn through connection with others rather than domination. In the frozen time, Jotaro awakens his own time-stopping ability. The world throws a final barrage. Star Platinum counters. Dio's leg shatters. He tries to escape, to heal, to survive as he always has. But Jotaro doesn't. Give him the chance. One final punch ruptures Dio's skull. His body convulses. The sun rises. Sunlight, the vampire's ultimate weakness, floods the street. Dio's body disintegrates from the legs up, screaming, dissolving into ash. Jonathan Joestar's corpse, possessed for a century, finally rests. The nightmare ends. Or does it? Seventh form. Heaven-Attained Dio, the world over heaven. In an alternate timeline, a parallel universe where the dice roll differently, Dio wins. Jotaro dies. The Stardust Crusaders fall. Dio successfully completes his heaven plan by collecting the souls of 36 sinners and achieving a state of transcendent evolution. His stand transforms from the world into something far more terrifying. The world over heaven. This version of Dio appears ghostly, almost divine. Pale purple-tinged skin, blonde hair extending to his waist. A broad golden star emblazoned on his forehead. Diagonal facial markings reading Dio in gold. He wears a white and gold outfit resembling divine regalia. A U-set collar, flowing cape, ornate belt, all gleaming with the aesthetics of godhood. The world over heaven doesn't just stop time, it rewrites reality. By striking any object or person with his stand's fists, Dio can overwrite their existence. He can erase people from reality completely. He can alter their abilities, their memories, their past, their future. He can resurrect the dead with full consciousness and stand intact. He creates pocket dimensions. He casts lightning from the heavens. He steals souls, gaining their knowledge, skills, and stands as his own. Heaven-Attained Dio defeats Gold Experience Requiem, the stand that controls causality itself. He obliterates Tusk HT4, Johnny Joestar's infinite rotation ability. He erases Funny Valentine from every parallel universe simultaneously. His goal, conquer all parallel worlds and exterminate the Joestar bloodline across infinite timelines. Only a coordinated assault by Jotaro and Jolene Kujo finally stops him. Jotaro retrieves Dio's armlets from the base world, physical anchors to his original reality, and uses them to shatter Dio's hands, the source of the world over heaven's reality overriding power. With his ability neutralized, Dio becomes vulnerable. Jotaro's final barrage pulverizes him. The souls he consumed pour out. His alternate reality collapses in light. Eighth form, Dio Brando, Scary Monsters. But Dio's essence exists beyond any single timeline. In the Steel Ball Run universe, a parallel world where the story repeats with different rules, Dio is reborn as Diego Brando, a British jockey competing in a transcontinental horse race across America in the late 1800s. This Diego obtains the Stand Scary Monsters from Dr. Ferdinand after stealing the left eye of the saint's corpse, a holy relic that grants immense power. Scary Monsters transforms Diego into a dinosaur hybrid, specifically a large dromaeosaur with distinctive stripes spelling DIO across his body and spikes of hair ending in round balls. Diego can shift between full dinosaur form and a humanoid hybrid with sharp teeth, claws, reptilian legs, and terrifying speed. More than personal transformation, Scary Monsters allows Diego to transform others into dinosaurs of various species. Velociraptors, Tyrannosaurus Rex, smaller prehistoric creatures, all under his mental command. He creates dinosaur armies and uses them strategically during the Steel Ball Run race. The stand grants Diego kinetic vision. The faster something moves, the better he perceives it. This makes him nearly impossible to hit with rapid attacks, but vulnerable to slow, deliberate strikes. He also develops fossilization, hardening transformed creatures into dormant stone-like states for camouflage or tactical positioning. During the race, Diego battles both Johnny Joestar and Gyro Zeppeli, sometimes as enemy, sometimes as uneasy ally, always driven by ambition to claim the saint's corpse for himself. His dinosaur abilities give him enhanced strength, stamina, and the ability to read horse physiology, breath rate, pulse, stride length, perspiration, making him a formidable competitor. But President Funny Valentine, wielder of the dimension-hopping Stand D4C, ultimately kills this Diego by splitting him in two with a train during their battle. Diego's severed head becomes a weapon used against another version of himself. Ninth form, Parallel World, Dio Brando, the World. Funny Valentine, desperate to eliminate Johnny Joestar, reaches into a parallel universe and retrieves an alternate Dio Brando from a hole, a pocket dimension where different versions of the same person exist. This Diego is different. Blonde like the original Dio, aggressive, predatory, lascivious. And he wields the World, the exact same time-stopping stand that Dio possessed in Part 3. Summoned to the base world with promises of the Saint's Corpse and absolute power, this alternate Diego demonstrates all of the world's terrifying capabilities. Time stops, superhuman stand strength, precision attacks in frozen time, and tactical brilliance. He quickly recognizes Johnny Joestar's tusk and its infinite rotation ability as a threat and formulates counter-strategies. This Diego is more violent and sadistic than his scary monster's counterpart, showing interest primarily in power and carnal domination. He successfully steals the Saint's corpse after Valentine's death, believing he's won absolutely. But Lucy Steele presents him with the severed head of his base world counterpart, the original Diego with scary monsters. The paradox of two versions of the same person from parallel worlds making physical contact triggers mutual annihilation. Both Diegos erase each other from existence, leaving only scattered remains. 10th form, Dio's biological legacy, Giorno Giovanna. Dio's influence extends beyond his own body through his biological son. Born during the century Dio spent with Jonathan's corpse before Part 3. Giorno Giovanna, originally named Haruno Shiobana, was conceived when Dio's head on Jonathan's body produced offspring with an unknown woman in Italy. Giorno inherits both the Joestar birthmark from Jonathan's body and Dio's genetic influence, creating a child who is simultaneously Joestar and Brando. Initially born with dark hair, Giorno's hair transforms to blonde when his stand gold experience awakens, visually connecting him to his father. But unlike Dio's philosophy of domination and destruction, Giorno's stand creates life from inanimate objects. Where Dio made zombies and death, Giorno creates butterflies, plants, and living creatures. Where Dio sought absolute power, Giorno seeks to reform corruption from within by becoming a gangstar in the Italian mafia. Giorno's existence proves that Dio's legacy isn't purely evil. The son rejects the father's ruthless ambition while retaining strategic cunning and determination. Gold Experience eventually evolves into Gold Experience Requiem, granting Giorno the ability to reset actions and willpower to zero, essentially controlling causality itself. Araki originally considered making Giorno part vampire, with sensitivity to sunlight and potential for full vampire transformation, but ultimately decided to make him fully human. Still, the connection remains. Dio's blood flows through Giorno's veins, and the Joestar birthmark marks him as part of a conflict that transcends generations. Final form, the Theoretical Heaven, Dio's incomplete Ascension. Throughout Part 3, Dio kept a secret diary outlining his ultimate ambition, the Heaven Plan. Though Dio died before completing it, the plan represents his theoretical final form. A state of godhood where one possesses complete knowledge of their destiny and controls fate itself. The plan's requirements remain mysterious, but involve collecting souls of 36 sinners, achieving perfect synchronization with Jonathan's body, and fulfilling specific spiritual conditions with the help of a trusted friend. Enrico Pucci, a priest who loved Dio, attempts to execute this plan in Part 6, using his evolved stand made in heaven, which accelerates time for the entire universe until it loops back to a new creation where everyone knows their fate in advance. Whether Pucci's interpretation matches Dio's original vision remains unclear. The incomplete nature of the plan means its true final form, what Dio would have become if he'd achieved his heaven, exists only in theory. Some interpretations suggest it would grant complete control over causality, time, and fate. Others believe it would transcend stand abilities entirely, making Dio a being beyond normal comprehension. The Heaven Plan's incompleteness haunts the JoJo's universe. Dio failed, Poochie failed. But the diary remains, the plan persists, and the question lingers. What would Dio Brando have become if he'd succeeded? Aftermath. From human schemer to vampire lord, from severed head to hybrid god, from reality warper to dinosaur master across parallel worlds, Dio Brando's transformations represent the complete trajectory of unchecked ambition. Each form is an evolution and a corruption. Each victory breeds greater hunger. Each defeat only redirects his will toward new paths to power. Even in death, Dio exists in timelines where he triumphs, haunting the Joestar legacy across infinite parallel worlds. His human form established that true evil begins with choice, the conscious rejection of morality in favor of power. His vampire form demonstrated that supernatural ability without wisdom leads to arrogance and defeat. His severed head proved that willpower alone can sustain existence beyond any physical form. His hybrid body showed that even stolen power comes with hidden costs. The world revealed that control over time still cannot overcome the human spirit. Heaven-Attained Dio illustrated the horrifying what if, where evil wins completely. And through his son Giorno, Dio's story suggests that legacy isn't destiny, that even the child of the ultimate villain can choose a different path. Dio Brando remains the central antagonist of Jojo's bizarre adventure, not because he's the strongest or the most destructive, but because he represents a fundamental question. If you reject every limitation, humanity, morality, time itself, do you become a god or a monster? Dio's answer was always both. And in that answer lies the tragedy of absolute ambition, that the power to rewrite reality cannot rewrite the emptiness at your core. The vampire who rejected the sun, the stand user who stopped time, the god who rewrote existence, the dinosaur master, the biological father, the incomplete heaven. Every form of Dio Brando, every transformation a step further from humanity and closer to the abyss. And even now, across parallel timelines and alternate worlds, the question remains. Which version won? Which Dio succeeded? Perhaps they all did. Perhaps none of them ever could. Because the truest form of Dio Brando isn't any single transformation. It's the will to transform endlessly, never satisfied, never complete, forever reaching for a heaven that doesn't exist. That's the real horror. Not the vampire, not the time stop, not even reality itself bending to his fist. It's that somewhere in some timeline, Dio is still trying, still reaching, still refusing to accept that some victories can't be won because the battle itself is the poison.